Hello, my friends. Dr. Rick Mabanta. How you doing? I was looking at a Joe Rogan podcast the other day, and I'm a big fan. Love the guy. I think he's a cool dude. He's into a lot of great things, similar things that I'm into: martial arts, nutrition, optimal optimization of the human condition is things that he talks about, and he has some great guests on his show. But I think Joe, you really missed the boat when it came to chiropractic. And the reason why I wanted to stress the point of that is because you're not alone. There's probably a lot of people that have come to the same conclusion about chiropractic, and I think it's kind of a result of maybe not looking at it thoroughly enough, maybe having some preconceived biases about healthcare. But anyway, you went over some specific points about chiropractic that I think were misleading and untrue in a lot of ways. So I wanted to cover those for the sake of bringing this art to as many people as possible, because I think it is a very useful and viable art, and it can help humanity in a magnificent way. One of the things that happened probably as a result of your podcast is some people were steered away from chiropractic. And from your belief system, it was rightfully so, because you came to the conclusion it was a bad thing. However, I think if you had more information and some proper data, you could perhaps come to a different conclusion on this. Chiropractic is still a pretty small percentage of the population that is being used by, and so I think if we can bring a useful art like chiropractic to more people, we will benefit the health of the planet as a whole. So the first thing that you mentioned, Joe, was in researching chiropractic, you ran across D.D. Palmer, the originator of chiropractic, and you saw that he was a magnetic healer originally. So magnetic healing is an unproven science or art, which is true. It's not. And it's a little bit of a, outside the box kind of thinking, which in some ways is why D.D. Palmer was a brilliant man, because he was thinking outside of the paradigms that were going on during that time period. That time period was 1895. So, people were using things like bleeding as a healing. Mainstream medicine was using leeches to help people. So there were some healing modalities that were certainly not as effective as they are today. And he was looking for alternatives, and magnetic healing was one of those things. The thing about magnetic healing and energy fields that has been shown to be more and more accurate is the effect of electromagnetic fields on human physiology. And I think if you look into that a little deeper, you'll see that we have been seeing some negative effects as a result of that. But the thing that D.D. Palmer did at the time was he looked towards human neurology and the nervous system. And that's where chiropractic was birthed from, and that's what it pursues to this day, is to understand the purpose of the nervous system and maximize that purpose, which is to control, coordinate, and organize the function of all other systems of the body. So for D.D. Palmer to go in the direction of neurology, I think was a very accurate and an effective manner, and the research that we have today proves that fact. And if you look into neurology and the relationship to biomechanical distortion, you'll find some of those facts. And I'll go over a study that we've seen more recently. The next thing that you mentioned, Joe, was that chiropractors are not doctors. And, it's true. They are not medical doctors. And we don't study medicine. We study normal physiology. And if you want to look at the education of chiropractics, try Googling chiropractic education versus medical education. And what you'll see is that the amount of hours of medical school compared to chiropractic school are essentially the same. Chiropractic actually has a little bit more hours in the area of physiology and anatomy, because that's where our focus of healthcare is directed, towards the anatomy specifically of the spine and its relationship to the nervous system. So you mentioned you weren't certain what the education process was for chiropractic. Take a look. You judge for yourself, chiropractic versus medical care. You'll find it's essentially comparable to medical school. The areas that different is that the medical doctor looks more in the area of pharmacology and the effects of synthetic chemicals on the body. And in chiropractic, we look more towards nutrition and the natural governing mechanisms of the body, i.e. the nervous system, which is why the primary focus of chiropractic is around the nervous system. You also mentioned the area of chiropractic where we adjust infants or children. You mentioned, why would you adjust infants? They may not be complaining about pain, or they don't have pain or symptoms. However, if you understood the focus of chiropractic, it's not to change pain or symptoms, but it's to enhance the function of the nervous system, which will control, coordinate, and organize the function of all other systems of the body. So if we were to analyze an infant, for example, and find an area where we might see some abnormal motion, alignment, function of the spine, we would introduce a chiropractic adjustment, which is much different, obviously, than adjusting an adult. The amount of technique and force that you would use is completely different than adjusting a adult. So the question you might ask is, how can that abnormal function occur in an infant, a baby? If you take a look at some of the obstetrical techniques that's used by mainstream medicine, some of those are contrary to some of the natural processes that occur during the birthing process. For example, having the woman lay on her back in a horizontal plane where she's pushing without the use of gravity to open, and also the position of the pelvis is restricted in its ability to move and open the birthing canal, which creates a need for that doctor to pull and put tension on that infant's cervical spine. Watch a few births, you'll see that process occurring of a typical obstetrical techniques. The other area that you mentioned was there's no research in the area of chiropractic. So one of the most interesting research projects is a double-blind study from New Zealand, from Heidi Havoc, I mentioned in some of my other videos, where we saw a direct effect on the brain, central nervous system, specifically the cerebral cortex, from spinal adjustments compared to a placebo effect. So we know that we have an effect on the nervous system through doing electroencephalograms and spinal adjustments and monitoring changes. In addition to that, there are also studies that showed an improvement in performance of high-level martial artists, Taekwondo martial artists specifically, and showed a 16% improvement in reaction time in that particular group that was studied. Also in stroke victims, we see an improvement in the ability to control motor function. So there's some interesting areas of research that you didn't mention on your podcast, and it's worthwhile to take a look because you can see the mechanisms for why chiropractic has been speaking about helping a lot of different conditions over the past 125 years we've been in existence. The other area that may have led you in the wrong direction of understanding chiropractic in a erroneous manner might be the particular chiropractor that you had for your care. In every profession there are good and bad practitioners, just like in the martial arts arena, especially in the martial arts, which you mentioned in some of your podcasts, that there are a lot of fakes and phonies basically in the martial arts arena. You'll have these guys that say they have the power of chi and they can move these mysterious energies in the body for the effectiveness in battle, and as you know, some of that is fake and phony and erroneous. So in the medical profession, in the dental profession, in the chiropractic profession, there are also practitioners that are less skilled, less able to create that positive change in the nervous system and have a positive effect. So like a martial artist, there are high-level practitioners and there are low-level practitioners. What I would recommend is finding somebody so you can experience what a high-level chiropractic adjustment is. And it's an art form. It's like a skilled practitioner. It takes time to develop, and not everybody can do it. It's a difficult aspect of chiropractic, is to be able to deliver a chiropractic adjustment in a way to affect the nervous system in a positive way. So just a couple of points that you mentioned during your podcast. Again, I think you may have arrived at an erroneous conclusion around chiropractic, and I think a lot of people have. And I don't necessarily blame you. I blame the profession as a whole, and I think our educational process is less than optimal. And I think that's ultimately, so I take responsibility as a chiropractor and as somebody that educates the community for not putting out as much information that would be necessary for people to arrive at a accurate conclusion around chiropractic. So Joe, keep up the good work. Keep doing your podcast. Love your guests. And if you ever want a real chiropractic adjustment or more higher level chiropractic adjustment, be more than happy to give you one and or hook you up with somebody that can deliver some quality chiropractic care. So thanks, and I will talk to you guys later. Take care.